Have you ever saved someone's life, only to wish you hadn't? I never thought one heroic act would destroy everything I loved. But the man I saved, he wasn't a victim. He was the storm waiting to tear my world apart. They say one moment can change everything. Just one. Not a week, not a day, not even an hour. Just a single moment in time. I never believed that until it happened to me. It was raining that day hard. The kind of rain that soaks you in seconds and makes your shoes feel like wet cement. I had just left work after a grueling 10-hour shift, exhausted and frustrated. The only thing on my mind was getting home, kicking off my boots, and collapsing into the couch. But fate had a different plan. As I turned on a 12th and Monroe, I saw him. A man, mid-30s maybe, stumbling across the street. He looked disoriented, eyes wide, skin pale, almost greenish. At first, I thought he was drunk, maybe high, but then I noticed the way he clutched his chest. He collapsed right there in the crosswalk. No one moved. People honked. Someone even cursed out the window. But no one got out of their car. Without thinking, I ran. I reached him within seconds. He was gasping, panicked. He couldn't speak, but his eyes, they were pleading. I dropped to my knees in the pouring rain and started chest compressions. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. Just like they taught us in training years ago. My hands trembled. My heart pounded. I screamed for help. A woman finally called 911. Minutes passed, maybe hours. Time blurred. When the paramedics arrived, they pushed me aside and took over. One of them looked at me and said, "If you hadn't acted when you did, he wouldn't be here." That moment should have felt like victory. I saved a man's life, but it was the beginning of the worst chapter of mine. I didn't even know his name that day, but I would soon. And when I found out who he was, what he had done, and what he would do to me and my family, I wished I had walked away. It took me a while to come down from the adrenaline of that night. For hours after, I just sat in my apartment, staring at my soaked clothes, replaying everything. I saved someone's life. That should have been enough, right? A few days later, I got a phone call from the hospital. They said the man I'd saved wanted to meet me, wanted to thank me in person. His name was Daniel Reed. I almost didn't go. Something about the whole thing felt strange. I couldn't explain it. Just this pit in my stomach. Like I'd touched something I wasn't supposed to. But I went. Daniel was sitting up when I walked in. He looked completely different. Healthier, sharper. His eyes had this unsettling intensity, like they were always calculating something. "You saved my life," he said with a grin. I nodded awkwardly. He reached for my hand, gripped it too tightly. "I owe you everything, man." I told him he didn't owe me anything. I just did what anyone would have done. Except that was a lie. No one else had done anything. Before I left, he asked for my number. Said he wanted to stay in touch, grab coffee sometime. I gave it to him, reluctantly. I chalked it up to survivor's gratitude. But I should have listened to that feeling in my gut. The next few weeks, he texted. A lot. Always cheerful. Thankful. Almost too much. He'd send random messages at weird hours. "Hope you're doing okay. Hero. You ever wonder if the universe brought us together for a reason? You saved me. I'll never forget that." I tried to brush it off, assuming he was just dealing with the emotional aftermath of a near-death experience. I responded politely, but distantly, until one day, he showed up at my job. I worked in maintenance at a local tech building. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills. I was fixing a vending machine when I looked up and saw him. Daniel, smiling, like it was normal. "I figured I'd surprise you," he said. "Maybe we grab lunch?" I was stunned. I hadn't told him where I worked. I never gave him that information. Something wasn't right. I declined. Told him I was busy. His smile twitched. Just a flicker. But I saw it. That was the first time I felt scared. I saved a stranger's life. And now, somehow, he was in mine, and he wasn't going away. After that day at work, I tried to set boundaries. I stopped replying to his texts. I made my social media private. I even started checking over my shoulder more often. But Daniel, he wasn't just grateful anymore. He was obsessed. It started small, subtle things, like finding coffee waiting for me at the front desk with a note, "Stay sharp, hero." Then came the calls, from blocked numbers. No one ever said anything, just silence. Until one day, my neighbor mentioned seeing someone lurking near my apartment late at night. Tall guy, hoodie, just standing there. I knew who it was. I didn't want to believe it. But deep down I knew. I saved a man from dying. But in some twisted way, I'd also invited him into my life. And now, he was rearranging it, without my permission. One night, I came home and found my apartment door slightly cracked open. Nothing was taken. Nothing was broken. But something had changed. There was a photo of me on the kitchen counter. One I didn't take. One I'd never seen before. And written across the bottom in sharp, red marker were the words, "You saved me. Now I'm saving you." That was it. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't about gratitude. This wasn't even about obsession. This was about control. I stared at that photo for hours. My own face, captured without me knowing. Those 7 words scrawled in red marker burned into my brain. You saved me. Now I'm saving you. But saving me from what? I tried to tell myself I was overreacting. That maybe Daniel was just unstable. Grateful, but in a warped kind of way. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just about gratitude anymore. I went to the police, filed a report, explained everything. How I saved him, the stalking, the messages, the photo. They listened, nodded, and told me they'd keep an eye out. That's it. No restraining order. No investigation. Nothing. Just another system that fails when you're screaming quietly. Then came the email. It was from an anonymous account. No subject, no body. Just a video file. I hesitated. My gut told me not to open it. But I did. And I swear to you, I will never unsee what I saw. It was footage from a security camera. Grainy, black and white, but unmistakably me, sleeping in my own bed. He'd been in my apartment. While I slept, I felt sick. I checked every lock, every window. I didn't sleep that night or the next. And then it clicked. The question that had been circling in my head like a vulture. Who was Daniel, really? Because no normal man behaves this way. No grateful stranger breaks into your home just to leave a note. He didn't just cross a line. He obliterated it. I needed answers. I needed to know who I saved before he destroyed everything. I spent the next few days digging. I started with the hospital, where I first met Daniel. I remembered the night like it was tattooed on my brain. But when I asked about him, the nurse frowned and said, "There's no record of a Daniel Price being admitted that night." I froze. I repeated his name, spelled it out. She checked again. Still nothing. That's when the chill hit me. What if I didn't save Daniel that night? I scoured online databases, social media, obituaries, anything that could tell me who this guy really was. And then I found it. An old news article, dated 7 years ago. Headline: Local teen dies after fall. Suspect never identified. I almost skipped it until I saw the photo. It was him. Younger, shorter hair, but that same cold stare. Daniel wasn't the victim. He was the brother. The article explained that a 17-year-old boy named Ryan Price died after falling from the edge of an abandoned overpass. The same overpass I pulled Daniel from. It was ruled an accident, but the police never identified who Ryan was with that night. Witnesses reported a figure seen walking away just before Ryan fell. In the final paragraph, the victim's older brother, Daniel Price, has refused to comment, but has publicly vowed to find the one responsible. He thought I was the one. He believed I had something to do with his brother's death. And the sick part? I had no idea who Ryan Price even was. I wasn't there that night. I didn't know them. But somehow, Daniel believed I ruined his life. So, saving him that night? That was his plan. To get close. To watch me. To tear me apart from the inside out. And it worked. Because now I was trapped in a nightmare I never walked into. My life was no longer mine. I thought knowing the truth would give me some control, but only made things worse. Because now I saw everything differently. The way Daniel asked questions about my past. The way he mirrored my routines. Even the night we ran into each other at the coffee shop, it wasn't a coincidence. He had been watching me long before I ever saved him. I wasn't his hero. I was his target. I tried to confront him. I invited him out for a drink, one of our usual nights. But this time I kept my questions sharp. "Hey, Daniel, did you grow up around here?" His smile faltered for half a second. "Here and there," he said. "Moved a lot after my brother died." I nodded slowly. "I read about him. Ryan, right?" Silence. It hung in the air like a storm cloud. Then he leaned in, eyes narrowing. "Funny," he said. Most people forgot about Ryan. Not you, though. You remembered. That's when I knew. He wanted me to know. He was done hiding. But what terrified me more was the calm in his voice. He didn't want revenge in the way most people do. He didn't want to hurt me. He wanted to become me. He had inserted himself into every part of my life. He became my friend, earned my trust, even started dating someone I used to talk to, like he was stepping into my shoes. And I let it happen. I saved a stranger's life, only to realize he had been building a version of mine to steal. One night, I came home and my dog didn't greet me. The door was unlocked. My books were rearranged. Nothing was stolen, but everything was different. The photo frame on my shelf, the one with my dad and me, it had been replaced. Same frame, same pose. But it was Daniel in the picture, staring back at me, smiling. I stood in my own home, staring at a photo that shouldn't exist. It was me and my father. Only it wasn't. Daniel's face had been photoshopped into the memory, as if he'd always been there, as if he belonged. I ran to my desk, checked the drawers, the files, the personal things no one knew I kept. Gone. My old journals, photos, letters from my dad, replaced with typed versions, rewritten, edited, sanitized, by him. That's when I realized this wasn't about friendship. It wasn't about manipulation. It was identity theft of the soul. Daniel wasn't just inserting himself into my life. He was trying to overwrite mine, like I was a placeholder, and he was the real version of me. I changed my locks, wiped my hard drives, deleted contacts, passwords, photos, everything I thought he could have touched. But it didn't matter. 2 days later, I got a call from my boss. He asked why I had submitted my resignation. I hadn't. Daniel had. My accounts were being closed. My name was being erased from places I had built from the ground up. It felt like I was disappearing slowly day by day. And no one believed me. To everyone else, Daniel was charming, helpful, the guy I brought in my life, the guy I owed everything to. How do you tell people the man you saved is trying to become you? How do you prove that behind the smiles and jokes, he's been pulling your world apart piece by piece? I called the police, filed reports, but with no physical harm and no real proof, they couldn't do anything. Sounds like a personal matter, they said. Yeah, personal. Too personal. The worst part? He started dating my ex. And when I saw them together, laughing at the same restaurant where she and I used to eat, she looked at him like she used to look at me. He had taken my place, and she didn't even notice. I was losing myself. Piece by piece, Daniel was replacing me, and no one seemed to see it but me. I had no job, no partner. My friends thought I was jealous or paranoid, and maybe I was. But I knew what I saw, what I felt. This wasn't jealousy. This was war. I had one shot left. I remember an old friend of mine, Chris, from college. He's into cybersecurity now, runs a private firm. I told him everything. He didn't laugh, didn't say I was crazy. He said, if what you're saying is true, he's probably left digital fingerprints all over your life. That's when we started digging. Emails I never wrote, messages I never sent, social media posts that appeared under my name, all traced back to Daniel's IP address. He hadn't just studied my life. He mirrored it. And when he couldn't mimic, he manipulated. Chris looked at me and said, he's not just obsessed with you. He's trying to erase you. And he's getting close. That night, I couldn't sleep. I remember the day I pulled him out of traffic. The blood. The way his hands clutched mine as he whispered, thank you. I had no idea that the man I saved would become the reason I no longer recognized my own reflection. We set up a trap. Chris helped me set up a hidden camera in my apartment. I invited Daniel over, played nice like I was finally giving in, accepting the new normal. I offered him a drink, told him I missed our talks, told him I wanted to reconnect. He bought it. Then he said something that chilled me to the bone. You know, you're better as an idea than a person. What does that even mean? That night, while I pretended to sleep on the couch, Daniel moved through my apartment like he owned it, went through my drawers, opened my laptop, typed something into my personal files. The camera caught it all. Chris and I watched the footage the next day. The evidence we needed. I finally had the proof. But what happened next was something I never saw coming. I confronted him, told him I knew, that I had the footage. That was over. He didn't flinch, didn't panic, didn't even blink. He leaned in and said 5 words I'll never forget. You shouldn't have saved me. Those words hit me like a freight train. For a moment, I just stood there, frozen. Had I made a mistake? Had I really put myself in this situation by saving him? But in the pit of my stomach, something didn't add up. Why? I asked, barely above a whisper. Why all of this? Daniel didn't answer right away. He just stared at me, like he was deciding something, calculating, weighing his options. Then, he smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a grateful one. This one was cold, calculated. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't the one he wanted to hurt. I was the obstacle, the challenge, the stepping stone. He'd been playing a game this whole time, and I was just another pawn. His obsession wasn't about taking over my life. It was about making sure I didn't have a life left to take back. The truth became clear. This wasn't a stranger I had saved. This was someone who had been waiting for the perfect moment to destroy me, to tear down everything I had built. I had no idea who Daniel really was, but now I saw the truth. I thought I was saving a man's life. I thought I was doing something noble. But what I didn't know was that I was letting a monster into my world. A monster that had been manipulating every step of the way. Who are you? I asked. You're not the man I saved that night. His expression twisted, almost like he was relieved. I finally understood. For the first time, his guard came down. He sat down on the couch, his hands resting casually on his lap. The room felt heavy, charged. The truth was about to spill out. I knew you'd figure it out eventually, Daniel said. I wasn't just in the wrong place at the wrong time. You see, I wasn't running from danger. I was running for myself. His eyes darkened, and in that moment, I saw him for who he really was. A man who was lost, angry, and deeply disturbed. I didn't want you to save me, Daniel continued, his voice cold. I wanted to destroy you. I couldn't comprehend the words, but it didn't matter anymore. The damage was done. The game was over. I had been a fool to think I was the one saving him. The truth was, he had been saving me for the day he'd come back, to finish what he started. As I sat there in stunned silence, I could feel the weight of everything crashing down. My heart pounded in my chest, the air in the room thick with tension. I had saved a man's life, but what had it cost me? Everything. Daniel leaned forward, his eyes gleaming in the dim light of the room. I told you, I wasn't running from danger. I was running from the truth. His words were like a slow burn, spreading through my body with a cold, unsettling heat. He paused. Then, with a twisted grin, he said something that made my blood run cold. You think you know me now, don't you? The guy you saved? The guy with the broken past? Well, here's the truth, pal. His eyes locked onto mine, sharp and calculating. I wasn't just some random stranger. I was someone who had been watching you for a long time. I knew everything about you. Your weaknesses, your fears, your family. I was never going to let you have peace. He wasn't the man I saved that night. He was someone else entirely. Someone with a plan, a hidden agenda. Everything, every moment, every word had been orchestrated. My act of saving him, that was just the beginning. How could I have been so blind? How could I not see the signs? Daniel's manipulations have been subtle, woven into the fabric of my life. At first, it seemed innocent enough, just a man grateful for the life I'd given back. But now I knew. Now, I understood the twisted truth. I didn't just ruin your life, you know, Daniel said, his voice dripping with a dark satisfaction. I took everything you had, and I'll make sure no one ever trusts you again. It was all coming together now. The lies, the manipulation, the reason my life had been spiraling for months. It wasn't just bad luck. It was him, Daniel. But then, something inside me shifted. I wasn't going to let him win. Not now. Not after everything. You think you've ruined me? I stood up, my voice strong, unwavering. You don't get to destroy me. I saved you, yes, but that doesn't mean you get to take everything I've worked for. This is where your game ends. I stepped forward, closer to him, watching the shift in his eyes, the panic that suddenly flared. He wasn't the predator anymore. I was. You messed with the wrong person, Daniel. Daniel stood frozen, caught off guard by the sudden shift in the air. For the first time, I saw fear flicker across his eyes. For once, he wasn't in control, and that felt good. I knew the truth now, and it made all the difference. I took another step closer. You were never in control of me, Daniel. Not then, not now. His lip curled, but there was a tremor in his voice when he spoke. You think this changes anything? That whatever you're planning will fix it? You can't undo what I've already done. You've already lost. I looked at him, realizing that despite everything, all the betrayal, the lies, the manipulation, I was free. Free from the power he'd tried to hold over me. I didn't lose. You did. You thought you could destroy me, but you just showed me who you really are. I took another deep breath, my fist clenched. You're a coward hiding behind lies, and I won't let you tear me apart anymore. How had it all come to this? How had one act of kindness spiraled into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from? A simple decision to save a life had changed everything, and now, here I was, standing in front of the man who had ruined my peace, my trust, my life. But I was no longer the person who'd made that impulsive choice. I had grown. I had learned. And most of all, I had learned the power of reclaiming control. As the seconds ticked by, I realized something. I wasn't just going to expose him. I was going to make sure he paid for what he did. Not just to me, but to everyone who had ever fallen victim to his web of lies. Daniel wasn't going to walk away from this unscathed. I pulled out my phone, heart racing with a newfound resolve. You're not walking away from this, Daniel. I'm calling the police. You won't get away with this. His face twisted in anger, but there was no turning back now. He lunged forward, trying to grab my phone, but I quickly backed away, keeping the distance between us. My fingers were steady, dialing the authorities. He knew it was over, and his attempts to intimidate me fell flat. You were right about one thing, Daniel. You've ruined my life, but not in the way you think. I hit the call button, watching him as the line rang. You made me stronger. You made me realize I'm capable of much more than I ever gave myself credit for. And you'll pay for what you've done. As the phone began to connect, I watched his expression shift from rage to desperation. The police arrived within minutes. By the time they cuffed Daniel, his face had gone pale, his arrogance replaced with fear. The same fear I had seen in his eyes when he realized I wasn't going to be his victim any longer. The man I once saved was now the man I was handing over to the law. That day changed me. I'd saved a stranger's life, but in the process, I had almost lost my own. The whole experience taught me the value of boundaries, trust, and most importantly, how not to let anyone manipulate you into becoming their victim. I was done with feeling powerless. I had reclaimed control. And Daniel? He got exactly what he deserved. Some people come into your life for a reason, while others come in to teach you lessons. But not every lesson is easy to learn. I could have easily let Daniel's lies destroy me, but I chose to rise above it. I chose to take charge of my own destiny. And that's the most powerful thing I could have done. What do you think? Have you ever had a moment where saving someone's life turned your world upside down? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And if you found this story as intense and eye-opening as I did, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on more stories like this one. Remember, sometimes the biggest lessons come from the most unexpected places. Until next time, stay strong, stay aware, and keep learning.